KFC just came out with Beyond fried chicken, plant-based chicken nuggets. Can you believe it? I cannot, so I'm going to try them right now and see how they taste. I've heard mixed reviews about it. I've heard people compare these little nuggets to erasers, which feels very kind of accurate because they're square shaped and then they're white on the inside. We'll see if they taste like erasers though. I like it. It does look like an eraser. The breading is so good. So this is my verdict. I don't think it tastes like erasers. It is very dense. Like, I don't know if you guys have had the brand Gardein, but I really love their vegan chicken. And it's less dense than this. Part of me likes it a little less dense. But at the same time, the breading on this is so good, which I feel like is as to be expected because I feel like KFC is popular because of their breading. So I will say this is pretty damn good. And I think it's awesome that this is now going to be an alternative that's widely accessible. Like, there are KFCs everywhere, so. Now, there are debates on whether or not these chicken nuggets are even vegan, or if vegans should even be promoting KFC, given how many animals they kill. It kind of feels weird to support them as a vegan, but I think there's pros and cons and a lot of nuance into it, so I'm gonna get into that later. But first, I'm gonna tell you guys how I went vegan and my own personal journey with that, because I feel like I haven't shared that here. So I went vegan about 5 or 6 years ago, and honestly, within my friend group, everyone said that I was the last person they thought would go vegan. I think people associate veganism with emotions and empathy and compassion, all of which I personally believe that I have, but I feel like my friends have always viewed me as very logical, which I'm also very logical, but because of that, I think they just never really thought I would go vegan because they viewed veganism as an emotionally driven decision. So that's kind of the backstory. And at the same time, I ate a ton of animal products. Like for breakfast, I would eat omelets with cheddar cheese and bacon, and I would have steak. And one of my favorite things to eat was McDonald's chicken nuggets, until I found a piece of bone in one of them. And I never ate McDonald's chicken nuggets after that. So I had this like detachment, obviously, because I was ordering dead body parts of animals, but if there was like a certain type of dead body part of an animal, like a bone in a chicken nugget, I would get freaked out by that, and I didn't want to see that. So there was definitely a disassociation there, and I think it's super interesting because there was a scandal with KFC in particular where somebody found a chicken head in one of the chicken nuggets and it went viral. But it begs the question, like, what do you expect when you're ordering a box of dead body parts? Like, obviously there's going to be dead body parts in it. But yeah, I loved chicken. I loved eating turkey. I was a big meathead. Like, I loved bacon. I worked at a steakhouse. That was my first job. I really wasn't attached in any way to the animals, but at the same time there was like a level of hypocrisy and cognitive dissonance because I did consider myself an animal lover. Like, I grew up around animals. My family has had 4 dogs as we've grown up, and I've loved them so much, and I've always been so close to every single one of them. We also had a bird named Zeus, and I was very attached to him, and I saw the individuality in him, and I saw that he was so similar to me. Like, he would get sick. He threw up on me one time because he was sick. He felt love. He would like groom me, kind of like he would mess with my eyebrows, and he would give me kisses, and I could see that he recognized each one of us, knew each one of us, and had his own individual relationships with each one of my family members. Like, for example, he hated my sister and he'd always fly to attack her. I definitely recognized him as an individual deserving of freedom and their bodily autonomy, and I also recognized that he had a level of personhood. He wasn't a commodity. He wasn't an inanimate object. I think, like most people, I was eating animals, but also contradictingly, I also loved them. It wasn't until I was in college when I really confronted the ethics of eating animals, and if it's in alignment with my moral compass and the things I believe to be right or wrong. I went to college in Colorado, and I was walking through the kind of like common area, and I had a friend who was vegan and an animal rights activist, and she was passing out pamphlets. They were Humane League pamphlets. She just passed one out to me because she had to meet a quota of how many people she was giving it out to. She didn't really think like that much of it or that it was gonna change my life or anything, but it really did. I read that pamphlet on the way to lunch, and I read through all of the common standard practices in each form of animal agriculture. So I learned that in the pig industry, they have their testicles and their tails cut off with no anesthetic, and that's because sometimes they'll cannibalize on each other because they're put in such unnatural, cramped conditions. I learned that in the egg industry, they put baby male chickens in grinders. I learned that they debeak their beaks, which I could never imagine happening to Zeus, my family's parrot, and so it felt so crazy that that happened in the chicken industry. I learned that in the dairy industry, they artificially inseminate female cows repetitively over and over, and then take their babies within 24 to 48 hours, separate them, and then eventually the baby will either be killed for veal or for beef if it's a male, or if it's a female will become a dairy cow where she's again artificially inseminated over and over and having their babies taken away from them. And it just felt so blatantly wrong and so obviously wrong to what my own individual morals are and my own self-proclaimed identity of being an animal lover. At that point, it became very obvious that it would be a massive hypocrisy for me to pay for an animal to die and also still claim to love and care about animals. So that day for lunch, instead of getting, I think I usually got like the chicken soup or I got the broccoli cheddar, I decided to get a vegan one. I think instead I actually don't remember exactly, but I remember they had tons of vegan soups, which was really helpful to me. So it was pretty easy for me to just, instead of order the soup I usually got, just order the one that had the little V next to it. So I ordered a vegan soup. I feel like it might have been like a vegetable minestrone or something. The bread was vegan, I asked. That was like my entry point into veganism. After that, I just asked her for all the information I could have. I watched so many videos. I read a few books, like right off the bat, I read books about it. And the more I uncovered, the more shocked I was about how I had been lied to. I had been lied to in the sense of thinking that eating animals is ethical, that it's natural, that it's normal, that it's necessary, when in reality, it's none of those things. I just had no clue how horrific these industries were and that it was such a normalized thing. Like, obviously I never questioned the ethics of it because I grew up doing it and everyone around me was eating animals, so I never like thought there was anything wrong with it. And I guess I always was the type of person that thought just because something's societally normal, I would be woke enough to know what's right. Like in school, whenever I would learn about history and different times in the past where something was societally normalized but obviously unethical, I always thought, oh, if I lived in that time period, I would know that that's wrong. But in reality, it's so hard to say that because when something's societally normal, it's much harder to face that and to set yourself apart from the norm by doing something different, even if it is what is right. At that point, I pretty much went vegan cold turkey. There were some like mistakes I made along the way. Some things I still make mistakes with, especially when I'm traveling internationally. It's hard to like figure out a new system, I guess. So I definitely made mistakes. I think I ate a few like non-vegan cookies because they were labeled wrong at the dining hall. Ate gelatin several times. Yeah, there were just like things that sometimes I wouldn't check if milk was like in chips. It's just a learning process. But once I got past that learning curve, it honestly is like second nature to me. I think it was helpful for my personal transition that I was in college and I could go to a dining hall with a bunch of vegan options, so I actually didn't have to learn to like cook. Cooking came into my life like a little bit later, and I'm so grateful for it because I'm obsessed with cooking. I love it. If you follow my channel, you know I love it. It's such a big part of my life. It's like a creative outlet to cook, so it's something I love and I don't view it as a chore. With vegan food, you inevitably have to get more creative because you're branching out from what the norm is. So you can make an egg with tofu, or you can make cheese with carrots, and it's not the norm, so you might have to do a little more research into figuring out how to do that, look up a recipe. But once you like start to cook in that manner, like I don't know anything differently. Like I don't even know how to cook animal products. I would not even know how to. I feel like it was really powerful for me when thinking about all of this to imagine if like one of my dogs was put in the position where he or she was being slaughtered, not because we needed to slaughter him, not because of his own best interest, and not even because we needed to survive to eat his body, but really just because we like the taste of his body, which sounds really barbaric, but that's the reality, is we like the taste of animals' bodies. We grew up eating animals' bodies. It's cultural, it's convenient, it's normal, it's the norm in society. But I would always in my head place like a dog in the situation. My dog, I think, was helpful too, to connect and to really see like how much of an injustice it is, because there are like 72 billion animals a year that are killed. I think that statistic feels very disassociative. Like I feel like when one animal dies, it's a tragedy, but when 72 billion animals die, it's a statistic. It's hard to relate. But now to imagine that each one of those individuals within that 72 billion has their own personality, has their own likes and dislikes. Like every single dog is different, every single pit bull is different, every single cat is different, and anybody who like has a pet knows these things. But we don't spend time, I think the majority of people, with pigs and cows to fully comprehend how horrific it is that this many animals are being killed in animal agriculture. As the years have gone by, I've learned more and more, and I think I've learned how to communicate better about it because, like I said, you are set apart from the group when you go vegan. Like, I think less than 1% of the population is vegan, so inevitably you're kind of on the outskirts, and people do kind of bombard you with questions about where you get your protein. What about if you were stranded on an island? Would you eat an animal then? What about plants? Lions in the wild kill animals. Like, there's just so many different defense mechanisms people have, and I think they're all very valid questions, but I feel like it's very useful to learn how to communicate towards people about them, because you're already kind of set apart and you want to be able to communicate why you're making this step and this lifestyle change without making people feel bad or judged, or feel like you think you're better than them, or feel like you're so emotional they can't relate to you. So I feel like it's kind of a hard area to be in some ways, but I feel like throughout the years I've really learned how to navigate it much better, and I'm around people who eat animal products all the time, honestly. Like, I don't really show that on my channel, so I feel like a lot of people watching my videos don't realize that I do hang out with people who aren't vegan, but I'm obviously not showing them eat animal products because that's not something I want to promote. That is my vegan journey. That's pretty much the entirety of it. At this point, I thought I would talk about these KFC Beyond chicken nuggets and the controversy about them, because there's a big old controversy within the vegan community. First off, these nuggets are fried in the same fryer where they fry animals' body parts, which generally makes me uncomfortable, and I don't usually eat products that are fried in the same fryer. For this, I decided to make an exception because part of me thinks that in the grand scheme of things, it would be better to promote these nuggets rather than not, because I feel like it would possibly open so many doors to show other companies that there's like monetary value in not exploiting and killing animals. I don't really know if that's true. I just feel like money is the only language that some of these big companies understand, so I almost feel like we need to show that there's money in it. which is really sad. Like, I wish that companies could do it because they genuinely want to do it or they understand the ethics of it, but yeah, I don't really know. That's just the sad truth of it. I did hear about this pub in the UK, I think, that they went vegan for a month in January, for Veganuary. They were only planning to go vegan for a month, but then their sales just skyrocketed. So they ended up deciding to just totally go vegan. In a similar way, if we can show that to like big corporations like KFC, even like McDonald's, I don't know, these companies are really gross. Yeah, I guess if we could show that to these companies, part of me thinks it would be a good thing because it would make it more accessible, more convenient to people who, you know, like don't know how to cook or don't have time to cook healthy meals. I decided to go on my Instagram and ask you guys' opinion and see what you guys think about this. I asked the question, do you consider something vegan if it's fried in the same fryer with dead animals? 57% of you guys said no, and 43% of you guys said yes. KFC profits off killing so many animals, even though they now offer a plant-based option. But them offering a plant-based option also makes the idea of veganism more accessible to the general public. They are marketing the Beyond Nuggets like crazy, and it also sets an example for other large corporations to move in this direction. Should vegans support large companies who still profit off animal abuse when they launch a plant-based option? 63% said yes, and 37% said no. And these are some of the opinions I got from people that follow me. One person said, if we don't show them and all other food suppliers the demand for vegan options over animal meat, then we will find extraordinary struggle in creating change in the food industry and systems. Unfortunately, what usually happens is that the companies make simply more profit by adding vegan options because it allows them to tap into another consumer base, but it does not lead to an equal decrease in meat consumption, because those meat-eating customers won't change their habits and behavior simply because there's a vegan option. So the current reality is that we simply help these corporations make even more profit, which they in turn can use to bend legislature in their interest. Accessible options is great. I know many meat eaters who now get Beyond at Carl's Jr. or Del Taco. Somebody said, I think overprocessed meat alternatives aren't the answer. And this is funny. My friend Lance messaged me and he said, vegans, we want to create a vegan world. KFC, vegan chicken nuggets, vegans. How fucking dare you, KFC? You are literally the fucking worst. Fuck you and your vegan chicken nuggets. I hope nobody buys them and you continue to sell real chicken flesh for life. Lance is so funny. So many people responded to this and we're just cracking up. That's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you've had these KFC nuggets and share your opinion on what you think about the whole KFC, is it vegan or not, ordeal. And yeah, I will see you guys in 3 days. Bye!